Hello, everyone. Welcome to the after party for episode 10, where we are talking about some comments and questions we got about financial issues in dating. I would love to start out by talking about a comment I got from one of our listeners, Renee, who said, actually, there's been some research that's come out since the research that we referred to in our podcast that says that money actually does contribute to overall happiness. Because you know how I was kind of joking and saying more money, more problems. That
You didn't mean it.
I didn't mean it. What I meant was you need to be real rich in order to be happy. So she did send a really cool article. I'll actually link to it in the show notes. But in this article, one of the quotes that stood out to me was, it's not that rich people don't have problems, but having money allows you to fix problems and resolve them more quickly. So I think that does actually tie in with what we said, that the lack of money can definitely cause unhappiness. I don't think money in and of itself makes people happy, and I'm stand by that. I might have to dig deeper into the research, but I just know I work with a fair number of high net worth folks that are not super happy. I don't think the money's making them unhappy. I just think that they're unhappy for other reasons, and the money doesn't actually fix it. But all that said, I do think that there is some income level that probably allows your life to be much easier, and it allows you to, like this quote said, fix problems that you otherwise would struggle to fix if you didn't have the resources. So anyway, I thought that was very interesting. So Renee, thank you for sending that article. I'll link it in the show notes. So please check it out and let us know what you think about it.
Yeah, I think that the research, I read the article, and thanks again, Renee. It was interesting. And the point I liked in it was that, yes, I think we all know and can agree that if you're not able to meet your basic needs financially, then it's stressful. And yeah, it just creates heartburn. And so being able to do those things, and even above that, being able to take the trips that you've envisioned and things like that, of course, that's joyful. And uh, but it isn't the end all and be all to being happy. And part of what the article talked about was that you also have to spend the money
Yeah.
that
You
you
can't
have.
just be squirreling it away, because
Yeah.
spending the money is allowing you to travel and surround yourself with nice things, and those are the things that are contributing to your happiness. It's not just having a big pile of money in the bank.
Yeah. And it also reminds me of, I can reflect on a few situations where I know that people have particular money issues. And so the they have a ton of money, but they just want to hang on to it, and that
Hmm.
there's something there that they're scared of. And then some people just are, there's some history to why maybe they didn't have it growing up, and so they hold on to it tight. And that's okay, but again, this goes to being able to have those conversations when you're dating. Those can be kind of difficult because we all come in with our own stuff around
Yeah.
the value of money and what it brings. And so that that just requires conversation. And there's no one answer to it other than the fact that you have to be willing to talk about it, and you have to know what your crap is around it. I
Yeah,
think that's
for
the
sure.
other piece, is knowing what your shit is around it.
Yep. And that is something that comes up in therapy pretty frequently, is that it turns out that there's not really a number. So I'll ask people, people will be fretting about money, and I'll say, what's the number that you need to have? How much money do you need to have in the bank so that you feel secure? And it's a movable target, because they might
Mhm.
say it's $5 million. And then when they get $5 million, you're like, oh no, I'm just kidding. It's not $5 million. I actually need seven. And so and for someone else, that figure might be, I need a $10,000 emergency fund. And then that $10,000 emergency fund gets there, and then they're like, nope, that I still don't feel safe. I need more than that. And so just knowing that it's a movable target that has more to do with your emotional state than how much money's actually in that account.
That is so interesting,
Yeah.
and I believe it to be true.
Yep.
Well,
So the thing you were saying about having conversations, that is a great segue into a question that I know you got from a listener.
I did. One of our listeners said that they really enjoyed the conversation and wanted us to take it just a little deeper. and they were curious about at what point do you actually start divulging information about your assets,
Yeah.
and then the idea of commingling funds.
Yeah.
And so a first cut response on that is that I do believe that those conversations are small along the way. That I don't think that you're going out on a third date and that you should be laying out your bank account.
Bring your balance sheet to the third
Yeah,
date.
exactly. And honestly, I don't think that the focus of the conversation needs to be on your assets. I think the focus of the conversation in the beginning and as you're moving along and dating someone should be about what it is that you value if you potentially want to partner with someone, and then what you're comfortable bringing to the table. And I can give an example of that where I think about it, two people that decide, yes, I think we might want to live together. And at the point at which you start sort of fantasizing about together, maybe the home that you would like to be in, or trips that you might like to take together, then I think naturally those will involve money conversations. And I think it involves you talking about what you can do in that. Like, I might fantasize that I want a 15-bedroom mansion, but I can't afford a 15-bedroom mansion. And that conversation for me would be about, I feel comfortable with my home only taking X amount of my income
Yes.
because I still want to travel. And in order for me to travel freely, my home can't consume more than X amount of my income.
Yeah. Those
So,
conversations are great.
yeah. And
Yes.
so now I'm not saying, hey, I have, $5 million in assets. I've got CDs and I've got gold coins. uh, I think you begin to talk about what you're comfortable with if you're really thinking that you might want to merge your life in some way. I don't know.
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
I think that that's a great idea, that the focus should be on values more than it should be on finances, especially at the beginning. And like you said, if you're talking about moving in with someone, then of course you're going to have to talk about expenses and what kind of expenses you each want to take on. And that's going to occur naturally. The other part of this question was about the commingling of finances.
Mhm.
And I have worked with tons of couples over the years, and I will tell you that there's not one right answer to this question. That some people go all in and they put everything together, and some people literally never put a dime together, and other people do some version of, you know, something in the middle of those two things. And I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it.
Right. And I think you just have to be willing to talk about those things. And I mean, I will put right out there for my standpoint. I've known since, and this sort of that stuff you bring in as a little kid, you bring to whatever, is that since the time that I could remember wanting it to be independent, I've always wanted to be financially independent.
Yep.
And that no matter what relationship, whether at the time, if I didn't know that I was a lesbian, even the thought of if I was ever going to marry a man in any traditional sense, I always thought to myself, I am always going to have my own money in the
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah.
And so I have always had my own money in the thing, and also shared the
Yeah.
home, the expenses, and all of those. So there, you're, like you said, there are hybrids, but I am willing to just, and that's something I'll talk to somebody straight up about it. If I feel like we're moving in that direction, there's no reason to have that conversation if you're
Sure.
in the,
If you're casually
first,
dating.
right. But if you are moving in that direction, then I would say it now, and I think I'll say it till my dying days, that I will always have something that is my own money.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, I don't think there's not a right or wrong about any of that. And so I think that the time to divulge it is, I would say, slowly along the way as it becomes necessary. But keep your focus more on values than finances, because
Yes.
then it all kind of works itself out anyway.
And and then one last thing I might say about this is I do think some people that relationships where they have more money wrestle with if someone is coming to the table with less money. And again, I don't think there are couple of major things that I think you just have to tease out there, and then it just doesn't have to be that hard. And that is, if you have the money, decide what it works in your value system in partnering with somebody, and the investment in it that feels good, the emotional investment and the financial investment. And you just stay firm to that and see where it meets the other person that is also going to have to come to the table with their financial investment and their emotional investment. And if those two things don't meet, but both people need to be coming to the table with something.
Right. It may
Yes.
not be finances, it may not be material, but both people need to be bringing something to the table. Otherwise, it's not a reciprocal relationship. So
Yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly on that. Anyway, well, it was really fun to get comments and questions about this topic. So keep sending them in. And as always, we want to thank you for listening to the Dateable AF podcast, where we help you find your happy ending.
And always remember, be bold, be kind, and for the love of queer dating, stay dateable.
No.
Don't text your ex and for the stay dateable. I just forgot that part.
We always mess this up, y'all.
No.
Okay. Well, we will see you on the pod next
Don't text your ex.
Stay dateable. AF.
Oh.